Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to the channel, y'all. Welcome back to the live, y'all. How are y'all doing today? How are y'all doing today? I am doing well, if you ask. Um, I do want to put a disclaimer if you're watching this video, if you're watching the replay, there is a beeping noise that is coming from somewhere else outside of the dwelling place that I'm in, and I do not know where it's coming from. And I literally just went to go knock on my neighbor's door to see if it was them, and nobody is home. Did it stop? Thank God it stopped, y'all. Y'all, it stopped. Hello, Andrew. Hello, hello, hello. Y'all don't understand. I was just going crazy for like 30 minutes trying to figure out. I just went to the neighbor's apartment, and they was like, no, it's not me. Yeah. So I'm so happy that it stopped at an appropriate time. It was just like a buzzing, beeping noise. It sounded like it was an alarm clock. Hello, hello. Hey guys, I'm blessed. Welcome back with a new profile picture. So yeah, y'all. I'm so happy that stopped at the right time, y'all. So we are on track to have a great conversation tonight, y'all. I'm so happy. Literally today we're going to be talking about self-validation. A lot of people, they don't understand this. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, just a little bit about it when we were talking about manifesting a specific person. We talked about just a little bit of needing to work on self-validating instead of exporting that validation to other people to allow you to feel or think a particular way, right? So I wanted to get a little bit deeper into the conversation of self-validation today. And now I want to say that a lot of the topics that I discuss on here, I don't know, it's just me. You miss it's okay. You can understand. Even if you miss something, you'll understand it. So where was I at? So a lot of the conversations that I have, because I am a deep thinker, I do see a lot of stuff on different levels. So there may be times where I start speaking about something, and in my mind I'm thinking about different levels of what I'm speaking about, but y'all are not in my mind. So y'all are not gonna always understand that. So I just want to say that just in case there's any missing pieces today, this is one of those conversations that can get deeper than deep. I think that any conversation that has to do with law, right? LAW, can get very deep. But I'm only going to give you the information that I was twiddling around with in my mind today, y'all. So we're going to be talking about self-validation, how to validate yourself. There are a couple of questions that I want to let you guys know that we're going to be answering in this live today. And so some of those questions are going to pertain to, okay, how do you validate yourself? Do you need validation from another person, from people in general, right? What is natural validation in this world, right? So these are some of those questions that we're going to be answering today. Who is your real authority? Who can really validate you? What does validation really mean? Okay. So these are some of the questions that we're going to be looking into today, because a lot of people have confused the idea of validation. And so that's why they have so much anxiety. That's why they have problems manifesting, healthy relationships especially. And I want to be the person to clarify all that for y'all. So make sure y'all double tap the live. I'm here to bring clarity, to ground you into your reality so that you can manifest what you want. Okay. So I think this frames our entire conversation for today. Okay. This frames our conversation for today. Understand that people seek validation, thinking they are seeking truth, but what they are actually seeking is strength, authority, and grounding. So a lot of people are seeking validation. So somebody calls you pretty, somebody calls you smart, somebody tells you that you look like you've been doing exercising and you losing weight, your body toning up. That is someone that makes you feel validated in you being a beautiful person, you being a smart person, you being a fit person. But that doesn't always make it truth, right? That doesn't always make it truth. But a lot of people are looking for that external validation so that they can be like, oh, well, this is true about me. But that's not really what they're wanting. Because if you have to keep going outside yourself to get it, I don't know, it's just not something that is that healthy, you know, for especially if you're getting Well, particularly, let me not say especially, but particularly when you're seeking it from a person, right? So again, a lot of people are seeking validation because they're trying to find truth, but again, they're just really seeking strength, authority, and grounding. I'm getting right into the conversation. Codependent, yeah, exactly, codependent, and that's what we was talking about yesterday. So let me see. Let me go ahead and try to give you guys a quiz for today. Something real simple. Let me make sure that there we go. Something really simple. I don't want to make it too difficult of a quiz. Can you self-validate? So we're gonna say, can you self-validate? We're gonna say yes. No, this is a trick question too, y'all. When I go into detail about validation, I don't know. I've never tried. Okay. So there is our poll for today. So if you guys want to go ahead and do our poll for today, there it is, y'all. And we're gonna get into the conversation. I'm not gonna be waiting too long. So can you self-validate is the question for today, right? And again, like I said, this is something that I just woke up today and was like, I want to talk about it. This is not something that I guess I do kind of think about it like every now and again, but it's just not something that I imagine being on my discussion list. Let's just say that, right? So let's talk about valid, because something that is valid, that when you look into validation, to validate something, make it simple, just means something that is valid. And just because, but to an extent, okay. So when you look into valid, understand something that is valid is made, like, let me not use truth. Let me back away from that word, because I'm going to tell you why. I don't see validation as something that is true, right? Validation does not equate to truth, is a better way to say it. Just because something is valid does not mean it's true, right? Does not mean that it's supportive, does not mean that it's effective for everybody. It just means that it is valid, right? So when something is valid, it is made strong through law. So there's a law that makes it valid. It's binding. That to make something valid is to make something strong, to make something effective, to make something powerful, active, to make something grounded. Something that is valid has a basis by an authority, right? And again, we're going to get into all of this information, and I don't want to confuse nobody. I don't want to confuse nobody. Hey, Bama, welcome back. Thank you for the compliments. Thank you so much. I don't want to confuse anybody today, because this is a conversation that is still going through my mind, right? So I want to open the floor up for discussion so anybody can, add to the conversation, whatever, right? So, when you look in like modern day dictionaries, like I was looking online at some modern day dictionaries, there are some dictionaries that are saying like if something is valid, that it means it's true. Me personally, I'm not going to equate valid with truth. I'm just going to equate valid with valid, right? Because, some people be like, they'll say something and the response will be, well, oh, that's valid. And what they're saying is, oh, that's true. That's factual, because that's modern day. But if we're looking at it, valid is just something that is made by law. Law makes something valid. Authority makes something valid. So valid is something that is strong. So in order to understand like the term of validating, so you can understand how to validate yourself, you have to know your laws. And honestly, we talked a lot about laws during the health conversation. And if I can summarize, a healthy person knows how to validate themselves, because a healthy person knows their laws, whether that is common law, civic law, which means those are the laws that you abide by because you live in a city or a country or a state, or those are considered more divine laws, which are natural laws that you abide by because that's just how life works, right? So like the law of gravity, you walk outside, you can't just jump off a building and expect to fly, because there is a such thing as a law of gravity that says, oop, we gonna put you down, right? You gonna walk on your feet. Hello, hello. So again, like there are natural laws that we abide by. And so when we talk about validation, well, what validates you? Gravity. And I hope I'm not losing anybody with the conversation, but we talk so much about self-validation. Well, we have to look at more natural laws that everybody has to follow, because that's just what life is. Not every state has the same laws as another state. So you can go from one, like a physical state, right? You go from one state, let's say you go to California, then you go to North Dakota. They don't have the same laws. And so you can't base your validity and your self-value, your self-worth on laws that change when you just cross another state line. Think about laws that we all have to abide by. Again, something that is valid due to the force of any law back behind it, due to the force of any authority back behind it. And we're going to get into who's your real authority, because y'all may think, y'all have y'all own thoughts. That's okay. But understand that your authority, a lot of people are exporting the job of being an authority to other people, forgetting that there's something else that has a true authority over you, right? So a law is something that is made to keep order, right? Law and order, y'all, law and order. And a lot of people, they don't respect the laws, so they don't be law-abiding citizens, and they be going to jail and getting tickets. I'm not one of those people, because I see law, especially natural law, natural divine law, as something that's here to allow us to experience life with ease, right? When there's structure and there's order and everybody respects the laws of the land, you can experience and enjoy life. You'll have a peaceful mind, a peaceful presence, all those things, right? So you said school, you said, how are you doing today? I'm doing well. I'm doing amazing now that all of my woes have went away. So common law is an example of validation. It's not a fact because y'all aren't married. So yes, I agree with you. Saying valid doesn't mean truth. Okay, yeah, common law, you talking about marriage. Okay, yeah. So, and that's the thing, is a lot of people equate it to truth, but you can't put an equal sign and say valid equals truth. Something can be valid but not true at the same time. And I don't have an example, but let me see if I can find an example online. What is something, let's see what they say, that is valid but not true? I need an actual example. They're not giving me actual examples. See, this is what I be talking about. This is why I like ChatGPT. They gonna be like, here's an exact example. There you go. That's what we're gonna do. The laws are not always moral. Sometimes you have to break the law to be on the side of morality. Exactly. And that's why I want to differentiate between common law, civic law, all of the laws that the law of the land, versus divine laws, right? Natural laws, right? Because there are laws that we naturally all abide by. We cannot help it. So, so here's some examples that they said. Premise 1, all cats are reptiles. Premise 2, Mittens is a cat. Conclusion, therefore Mittens is a reptile. So the argument is valid because if the premise was true, the conclusion would have to be true. But it's not true or sound because number 1 is false. So things could be valid, but it does not make it true. And they gave an example of all cats are reptiles, so Mittens is a cat, therefore Mittens is a reptile. Y'all can look up y'all's own. Because, yeah, anywho. I don't really like that example. I don't really care for reptiles. That's why. Man-made laws, yeah. And Godson, I was agreeing with you, yeah, for sure. That was a bad, yeah, I didn't really like that. Let's see if we can give me another example. Yeah. Hey, it's an example, though. All things that fly are birds. Okay, so what they're saying is all things that are fly are birds. Therefore, airplanes fly. Therefore, airplanes are birds. Okay, so those are things that the logic is valid, but the conclusion is not true. So not all things, just because it's valid doesn't mean it's true. You think that's a good one? Okay, cool. Okay. So again, a lot of people see like law as something that's punishment, but they forget that law is just something that's here to support us in living in ease, in unison with the world around us. And it allows us all to function. So one thing that I really like the idea of when I was thinking about this conversation is something that is valid. Just because you don't realize it's valid does not make it not valid. Valid is something that is found, right? You find something that's valid because you see it, you test it, there's evidence behind it, and there's authority behind it. And so that's what makes it valid. But just because you have to do that doesn't mean it wasn't valid before you did that. Something was valid before we understood it was valid. Do you understand what I mean? And so I want you to understand that things could be valid and you just don't know until you test it out, until you back it up with some type of authority. And so let's get back into the laws, the conversation of laws, because those are things that we have to follow, especially the natural laws. And so one thing that I was thinking about, one of the most natural laws that every human being follows is the law of our body. We have different organs that come together and it makes this whole body that we have. And if it wasn't for our organ systems following particular laws, like our lungs are created to breathe and to manage the air, import, export the air. We have our nose. Everything in our body has a system that follows a law, that allows us to function. So laws support us in functioning. Validity equates to functioning, right? That's how I see it. So our body does not ask us, "Oh, can I breathe?" It does it naturally. We don't have to be aware of our life. We don't have to believe that these things are true for it to be true. We don't have to believe that air is here for air to be here, right? So that is why you need to understand that one thing about laws is that we are bound to them. Bound, think bound, tied together. And we're going to get deeper into a little bit about this when I differentiate bound natural laws that we're bound to versus connection and authority, all those things, right, later in the conversation. So we are bound by laws. You're bound by your natural law of your physical body, like I just mentioned, and you as a citizen are bound to the laws in your states, in your country. Again, we're talking about self-validating, but as y'all know, I like to give you the foundational knowledge so that when we lead up to the conversation, to the conclusion, you have a complete understanding of where I'm coming from. Because I can't just be like, well, da 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 da. Y'all gonna be like, what is going on? You said, hold up. So you said, so in that case, what is valid? Already valid? Nothing has to truly validate anything because it's already ultimately valid through the basis of validation. Exactly. Hey, Big, you said, I feel that way about consciousness. You can't see it, but it's definitely there. Exactly. And you don't need somebody to say consciousness is real for it to be real and valid. It is. It just is. Right? So again, back to the idea of laws, right? And like, let me give you the exact law definition and etymology, because y'all know I like etymology. Things that are laid down are established. Lay down. What's something that's laid down? The gravity. But okay, anywho. So law is ordinance, so it has an order. Just like your body has a particular order, law is something that's prescribed by an authority. It's something that's regulated, right? So something that is laid down, that's law. And law is something that we are bound to. So you're bound by natural laws, you're bound by civic laws, all those things. And law gives us strength. Just like something that is valid gives strength, right? It makes you strong. And it doesn't restrict you. So I want a lot of people to understand that When you're thinking about self-validation, especially when you're seeking it from other people, y'all don't realize how much it's restricting you as a master manifester, how much it's restricting you as a human being, right? As a powerful person that you are when you're seeking external validation, because something that is valid is made strong. It strengthens you. Things that are valid strengthens you. So any laws that we are bound to, especially natural laws, they give us strength. They help us to perceive the world around us. It helps us to take action. It helps us to survive, right? Because if it was the wild, wild west out here, it would be a little bit more difficult to survive in peace if there was random stuff happening all around you. But what happens is we have laws that gives us structure and order, so we don't have to have so much randomness and chaos that disrupts our ability to perceive the reality consistently, right? To see certain things most cannot. Yeah. So again, like I would say, something can be valid even if you don't know that it's valid, because natural laws exist before humans ever tested it out. Gravity was here before whoever, I don't know who the man's name was. I want to say Mozart, but I know that's a musician. But I'm going to say Mozart anyway. Before Mozart dropped the apple and said, this is gravity, gravity was here, but we just became aware of it. So we become aware of things that are valid, but we don't make things valid. Nobody can make something valid. We just become aware of it. So again, validity is recognized through awareness, testing, evidence, repetition, and measurements, right? That's why they have peer-reviewed studies. Somebody, not one person can just do a study and say, okay, I did this study that makes it true, right? Thank you, GR. There you go. Thank you, GR. Welcome in, Newton. So somebody can do a peer review study, and they can't just be like, well, here's my peer review study. Here it is. It's true, right? No, you need multiple people to do the same type of study multiple times before they be like, oh, this is valid, right? But again, all those studies are doing is becoming aware of something that was already there. They're not creating anything. So even with yourself, when you're thinking about self-validation, you're not creating anything. You're becoming aware of something that's already there. So just because you testing it out doesn't mean you're creating validity, right? It's just confirming that something is valid, right? Something holds up to law. Something is strong, is made strong through law. So I want to talk about that a little bit more, because when you think about law, every law has an authority behind it. Now, modern day, a lot of our authorities come from text. Like, even if you look at like the etymology of authority, you'll see that it comes from passages, scriptures. Those are what some of those authorities they consider authority, right? And I didn't really get that deep into why they specifically said like basically writings, passages, all those things is what authorities are. But I'm thinking because writings is consistent is what I'm thinking. Hey y'all, hey John, I'm from America. So in my mind, I was thinking because writings is consistent, you can use that as evidence, as authority, because it doesn't change. But that's just me. But when you think of authority, this is what I want you to think about, so you guys know how to self-validate better. When you think about authority, link it to an author. Yes, an author, somebody who writes. Because if you look into it, you'll find it yourself. Authority, link it to author. And there's a lot of definitions for author, but I want you to focus on author being something that grows something. To increase it, to grow it, to be originally come from it, to do something, to bring into creation, to bring into being, and to hold a high position because you are growing something, right? An authority is not a dictatorship. Authority is not domination, okay? Authority is something that is supporting you in growing, okay? So that's what I want you guys to think about, because there are laws out there that are not supporting you in growing. Just like I think it was Godson said earlier, about there are some laws that you cannot act morally, so you have to break laws so you can be morally right. So most divine, well, I would say all divine laws are here to support you in growing and being a better person and doing and creating, right? And so if you are not able to do those things, then it's not an authority you should be following. If you don't feel like you're growing, if you cannot create, do things that you would like to do, then that's not a law that you should be following, right? And I'm not trying to tell y'all to rebel, because I do think we should be law abiding citizens. But understand that there are some laws that you should think about before you just follow them. Because again, law is here to create order. Order helps us survive and perceive the world around us with peace. And if y'all been in like the previous conversations when we talking about health, and this is where I was like, I don't want to get people off topic, because I know when I start talking about little stuff like this, people be like, what? But in our previous conversations, we talked a little bit about entropy. And if you understand what high entropy is, it's just that the natural order of life is to go into chaos and to expand, right? And anything that's growing is what? It's expanding. It's becoming larger, right? And so life naturally is going to always expand. We're going to always go into expansion, whether that's good or bad for us. But understand that that is like how life naturally moves, right? Life is naturally growing. Life is naturally expanding. You don't have any choice. Life is always changing. So authority aligns with movement. Anything that has authority over you is never going to be stagnant. It's going to always be flexible. So again, that rigid characteristic, if you are around people who you're seeking validation from, if these people are literally rigid, not flexible, they're not changing anything, life is always changing. That's not the law to follow, because it needs to adjust as life goes. It needs to be adjusted to fit where we are, right? So I want you guys to really understand authority, because I want you to start asking yourself, who is your true authority? When you can get to a point of understanding who your true authority is, it really supports you in self-validation more. You will know how to validate yourself when you know who your true authority is. And again, when I said connecting authority to author, what do authors do? They do things, they create things. But one thing that I didn't notice in the definitions that I'm going to say is authors create narratives. Authors create stories, right? They write things, right? Right? So when you know who your true authority is, you understand who is creating the narrative of my life to make me do what I'm doing. Who is doing that, y'all? This is how you validate yourself. When you can figure this out, this is how you'll validate yourself. I'm telling you. So who does that? Who does that, right? I want you to understand there's a difference. Well, I want you to understand the idea of doing things. You're always doing something. You're breathing, you're sitting, you're looking, you're watching, you're dressing, you're eating, you're laying down, right? So who is creating that narrative for your life for you to do what you're doing? Who is making you valid? Again, I want you guys to understand that validation equates to functioning, right? Functioning. So even if somebody is telling you what to do, you're still doing it. So just because somebody's telling you what to do doesn't mean that they're your true authority. The person who's doing the doing is the authority. You may not realize it, but that's the truth. You are your own authority because you're doing the doing, whatever you're doing, right? You are the author of your life, of your story. You are the one validating life because you're doing the doing of life. You're being the being. So again, just because somebody else told you to do it doesn't mean that what? That doesn't mean anything. You're the one doing the actions. So you are the author whether you acknowledge it or not. And the thing about being an author, right, of a story to validate your life is that somebody else can write your story and you can play a role, or you can create your own story and create your own reality in this world. Quite literally. That's how you validate yourself. Just create your own story. The action is exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, exactly. So again, like I was saying, a lot of people export that authorship, right? That authority to other people so that other people can tell them how to function, right? And then they allow other people to define their power, their worth, if they're correct or not, and their validity. But they, again, being valid is not something that you create. It's something that you become aware of. And because you're already a functional being that has all these things that come together to create you as a human being and allowed you to take action and do things, you are already a valid person. You are already validated in your being. You don't need anybody to validate you because you're already there. You're just not aware. Hey, 365, how you doing, friend? So let's talk a little bit more about function, because function, what you say you want to travel? Well, it depends on what lane you want to travel in. What you mean? Explain. Tell us more. So let's get more into function, right? And make sure y'all vote. If y'all hadn't had the chance to vote, make sure y'all vote. So function means proper work or purpose. So it basically means you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, what you're made to do, right? You're doing what you're made to do. You have the ability to act in a particular way in which you were created to do. You have the capacity to operate to do what you were designed to do, right? I keep saying the same thing but in different words just so y'all can understand it. And the thing about functioning, right, because again, we're talking about self-validation. The thing about functioning is that when you're doing what you were made to do, you enjoy life. Life is so much enjoyable. You wake up happy because you're doing what you were made to do. A TV, right? TVs are made to be watched. TVs are made to be turned on, to have a screen. If your TV, you watching your TV and the screen cut off, is that functioning well? Is that enjoyable? No. You're driving a car. Cars are meant to get you from one place to another. If your car no longer works, is that functioning? No. Right? So I want you guys to understand that I want to create a comprehension. I'm saying a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm going to put it together at the end, right? So when you are functional, you are made strong, right? You enjoy, you're made valid, right? A lot of people struggle with self-validation because they don't know themselves. You just don't know yourself. You don't know your power. You don't know your capabilities. You are unaware of your position in this world. You don't know who has true authority over you and who does not, right? You outsource authority to other people to tell you what to do. You don't figure out what you need to do and do what you need to do confidently. You say, well, they told me to do this, so I'm going to do it, right? You allow others to define your function. You allow other people to tell you who you're supposed to be in this world. You rely on external validation so you can feel grounded. Remember? Right? Hey, Rico. How you doing, friend? So again, a lot of times in modern day, we base certain authorities in like textbooks, right? We put the information in textbooks because that's typically more evidence-based logical reasonings that has been proven over and over again, right? So it gives a lot of passages authority. Books, even quotes, scriptures like the Bible, people have a lot of authority in the Bible. And we use a lot of these written texts as law, right? Even in the legal system, they use written laws in order to provide authority. So if anybody has an argument, well, it says right here in this text on page 108 on section 2 point B, the da 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 da, and they argue over literal text instead of going back and forth about how they feel and what they think, right? So a lot of people, if you knew how to read the laws and you knew your rights, that would help you in being better at self-validating. But because a lot of people don't know that, and it's not something where many people are going to have a class that's teaching them their rights, especially their natural rights, and who has true authority over you, a lot of people kind of, like, what I see is like they kind of break down, what's the word? They quiver because they don't really comprehend who has real authority over them, right? And a lot of people allow people to create an authorship over them or authorship over them, even when their beliefs say the opposite. So then it creates a cognitive dissonance that allows them to not be able to function appropriately. Because, like, for instance, at one point, there are laws against gay marriages, right? LGBTQIA plus, all that, right? There was laws against it. So there were people who were not able to get married, but they understand, this is who I am. This is who I love. I want to build a legacy with this person. So what if they was like, well, the Bible, well, my state, the world is telling me this, but in my natural being, this is who I am, right? And if they would have just listened to those laws, they would have had a lot of cognitive dissonance, and they would have caused a lot more chaos in the world trying to be something that they're not. So, you can base all of your authority, authorship, or place external authority in text and all those different things. It's really up to you. That's your life. But understand that just because it's in a book does not mean that it's valid. Okay? But that's how we modern day, we get a lot of validation through those texts, right? So I don't want you guys to only get validation through text, but I do want you to be made aware that that is one way that you can validate yourself in this world, is through text, meaning a book, a passage, a scripture, any of those things, right? And so that's what I was saying. When it came to law, we're talking about self-validation. Law is something that's binding, and there are things that humans are naturally bound to. Baby, you're bound to your body. What are you gonna do in this natural world? You can go ahead and do all the lucid dreaming and astral projection and stuff, right? But if you want to experience life in this natural reality, you are bound to a physical body, right? You are bound by the natural laws. You are bound by gravity. You are bound by your functioning. You are bound by the ground that we walk and drive on every single day. You are bound by these things, right? Again, gravity is one of the best examples, and gravity is one of the highest gods, I want to say laws. God is law, law is God, right? Gravity is a law that everybody is bound by, right? In this natural reality. And so authority is linked to gravity, right? Gravity is a natural law. Humans follow it automatically. We have no choice. How do you know that? How do we know that's valid? You walk outside. You're not floating. You don't drift away, right? And so just you being here in this very moment is you validating yourself. Hello, hello. Gravity is always validating you if you understand. But the thing is, a lot of people are not made aware of that, right? So we look into self-validation. You know me, I'm going to get deep into it. I'm not going to just tell you guys, love yourself. Just love yourself and hug yourself and journal about it. Journal, why am I not validating myself? Baby, you're already valid. You're already a valid person. You're just not made aware of it. And you've been exporting, right? You've been exporting your need for validation to other people instead of just doing it yourself and finding ways to become more aware of how you're already a valid person. All the laws you're already naturally bound by is what's making you valid. I think a lot about validity in this terms of, you at home You got all the ingredients to make your favorite meal. What is your favorite meal? I don't know. Tacos. You have all the ingredients to make tacos at home. But instead of making it at home where you'll feel a lot more better about eating it and happier and more satisfied, you go to the local taco joint and buy those tacos. And then you come home and you're a little bit more disappointed because you got to keep going over there to get it instead of just making it at home where you'll have abundance of leftovers and you can make it however you want to make it and you touched it. And it wasn't made by people who probably hadn't washed their hands since 8 a.m. in the morning. You never know. So these are things that I want you to think about. There's so many ways that you can think about validity being valid, right? So exactly, John. John, sometimes I think that you want to fight me. That's what I think. So again, there are different types of laws, and I need people to understand that I don't want you to base your validity on these man-made laws, right? You need to base more validity based on the natural laws that you have no choice but to follow. So, human laws, they differ from country to states. They're not always the same. They're tied to your citizenship. So you're a citizen of United States, America, right? You're going to have to follow those laws. What happens if you don't follow those human laws? Baby, they put you in jail. Most wanted. FBI is most wanted, right? Human laws can be conditional because, look, there's people who in jail for breaking laws and then a president get them out, right? Human laws is not always valid for everybody, right? It's not always valid. You should be a law-abiding citizen, but you should be a moral person as well and know right from wrong and understand that not every law was created in your benefits. Now, with more divine natural laws, right? Like gravity, the sun is a natural authority, right? Natural authority. Law of entropy, our biological laws, natural order, all those things. So you are bound to divine laws, regardless of beliefs. Remember, bound together, joined together. If you are bound, you are joined together. That means you cannot be unless you are together with this, right? So again, you can be a law-abiding citizen while recognizing that no human being is the ultimate authority over your life. There's no tethered. Yeah, there's no tethered. Is that the same as bound? I don't know if that's the exact same. I know it's similar, but I don't know if it's the exact same. But understanding that there's no human, just because the president of the United States is the president of the United States does not mean that he has true authority over you, right? So when you know who your true authority is, then you'll be able to validate yourself a little bit better, right? You can be respectable. You can respect these people, authorities. I always suggest being respectable. It's only pragmatically right. But that does not mean that in your mind and your body, you bow to these people as if they are the one binding you to this life that you're in. Hello, hello. You said a lot of people crave external validation from others and completely disregard self-validation. Exactly. I be going with that. Exactly. So again, I'm not sitting up here telling people to go be a rebel and rebel against the world around you. No, like I say, be a law-abiding citizen and do what is best for your community, but also understand that not every law was made in your support. So you should not allow those to be your validation, y'all. I'm from America, y'all. So again, I want people to start thinking about who is really writing my story. This is how you're going to start validating yourself. Answer these questions. Who is writing my story? Because right now, at this very moment, there could be somebody else writing your story and you're just playing the role. If you are not made aware of your own true desires and what this reality is here to do for you, right? That's how you're going to start validating yourself. I'm telling you. Who is making me do things? Shout out to Nigeria. Who actually has authority over me? And nice meeting you too. Understand the answer is no human. No human. Well, somebody could be writing your story, right? Somebody could be writing your story, but that doesn't mean that they can make you do things, right? Now, people feel made to do things because by force or violence, people feel made to do things. But you have to really understand that even nobody is physically getting in your body and making you do it. Even if you feel forced to do it by force or by violence, right? So, again, not presidents, not institutions, right? Ultimate authority belongs to natural divine law. Nobody tell your story better than you can. Exactly. Natural divine laws. And we talked about a few. Again, like I said, gravity, entropy, the sun. These are more natural and these have been tested and made, we have become aware of their validity, right? The scientists are doing their work. I want you guys to understand again, there's a difference between connection and validation. A lot of people are seeking validation because they want connection, not understanding that validation is different from connection. But they have similar things, right? Because something that is valid is bound by law, right? It's made valid because of a law, right? And I told you guys about natural laws we follow already, especially physical laws and divine laws that we already follow. So something that is valid is already bound. Connection, understand this, look. Connection, let's say from one person to another, is two people coming together to be joined and bound together through emotions, mental, physical, whatever that may be. So a connection is something that is tied together. So it's two individuals that come together. So you can eventually be bound together, but you are not naturally bound with that individual, and you don't need that individual to validate you as a human being. That one individual does not have authority over you, right? So again, connection means to bind together, to join, to fasten, or to even tie together. So again, it's two things coming together. A connection is created, it is chosen, and again, it can be emotional, physical, or even mental. This differs from validation because validation already exists. It already exists. Again, we are only made aware of validity or something that is valid. We're not creating it. Something that is valid already exists. It's already binding and it's already functioning. You're already bound by your physical body. You're already bound by gravity. But with a connection, which again, most people are seeking, and they are, what's the best word to use? They are choosing, or in their mind, they're thinking that validation equates to connection, which no, right? No, right? So I want you guys again to differentiate validation versus connection, because that's, a lot of people are misinterpreting that, and that's why they keep going in this feedback loop of, let me go talk to this person, they're going to tell me, I'm going to explain how I feel so that they can tell me, yeah, you're right about your feelings, so that I can feel right about my feelings, right? And then that's why I want to keep talking to this person, because they keep making me feel right about my feelings. No, right? A connection is optional. You choose a connection. You don't choose to follow gravity. You choose connections. And you build connections through consistent bonds. Again, whether that be mental, physical, or emotional. So you can choose somebody and you can choose to say, hey, I'm connecting with this person because we're on the same page. We enjoy each other. And hopefully within that connection, that relationship, you guys are supporting each other in y'all's growth, right? So again, make that distinction between connection and validation, so you guys are not trying to seek validation through your connections. You are already a valid person. Connections is optional. You are already valid. That is not an optional thing, right? So, do you need other people to validate you? I was thinking about this earlier. Think about it. Do you need other people to validate you? Because I was like, oh, well, you do need connections. And that's why I mentioned connections, because I was like, you do need connections. That you do need connections. But connections don't make you who you are. So no, the answer is no. You do not need someone who's going to validate you. You need connections, but you do not need someone to validate you, right? Because you already exist and you're already functioning the way you're supposed to function. You will still breathe. Even if that person was not around you, you will breathe. You will still be on this earth, not floating around, and you will still live. You're still going to be here, even if that person is with you or not. Okay? So again, you, like I said, you don't need people to validate you, but you do need connections, right? You need somebody who's going to be supportive in this reality. People do support you in feeling grounded and at peace and joy, being in a community of people. So you don't need everybody. You don't need everyone in this entire world. You just need specific people who are going to be supportive, and those specific people don't have to be the same people for the rest of your life. You know, you could just have connections throughout your life that are supportive, but they don't have to be in your life forever, right? So you don't need specific people. You just need supportive, aligned connections that you are going to join together through mental, emotional, physical relationships, having conversations, writing to each other, communicating. So again, you don't need someone to validate you for you to exist, right? You need connections though. You do need connections to co-regulate and relate to people. And sometimes we use our connections to kind of do like a compare and contrast to understand the world around us as well. We learn about life through our connections. So I don't want people to go out there and be like, I need to self-validate, let me go and get that through somebody else. If you're thinking I need to become aware of my own validity in this world, go outside and go touch grass and breathe some air and allow the sunlight, if it's not too cloudy, to bless your presence. Go do a little stretching, touch grass, okay? Another thing that I want you guys to think about is how to decide who has authority in your life. Who has real authority? Who's really writing your story? Think about it. You said, facts, I love connecting with people, but I don't need validation from anyone. I let the validations from others people come organically. Okay. So, how do you decide who has real authority over you? Right? Because yeah, in legality, the laws of our state have real authority over us legally, and we could say legally, right? But that doesn't mean that they're your true authority. He said people like a parent, spouse, friend may try to impose their will upon you, not letting you feel free to thrive or fail besides the natural laws and man's created laws, the laws of self-determination. Yeah, and that's one thing when we talk about to do things, I want to also include to will your life. That self-validation allows you to will your life the way that you would like to, better than anybody who needs external validation, right? Because once you start needing external validation, somebody else is directing your life. Again, they're writing your story. When you write your story, you will your life, period. So I do believe that people, we do have an order to life. There's a natural order to life, and there are authorities over us, right? And we should respect our authorities because they're supporting us with order. Does that mean that every authority is a moral person and that they're actually in order? No. You know, it just means that that's their job. That's their role. So if you want to think about who is your authority in this life, ask yourself, is this person helping me grow? Got to write your own story. Is this person helping me grow? Is this person keeping me stagnant? Or is this person making me regress? You'll know a natural authority and authority over you when that person is helping you grow. You will know by how your body feels. Does it feel expansive or constricted? Do you feel grounded or do you feel fragmented, all over the place, overwhelmed? Do you feel oriented in your space or do you feel disoriented where you just are so confused and all over the place? Like I said, that is what's going to help you identify who is your true authority, because I want y'all to start understand that you validate yourself. Nothing else validates you. You validate yourself. You're already a valid individual. You just have to be made aware. Right? You just got to be made aware. So there are natural validations that you can seek towards, right? That can be gravity, grounding, um, weight on your body. Like, we talked about this in our law of gravity episode when we talked about health, which I think about self-validation. A healthy person is going to self-validate, So, you want to think about validation, think about getting healthy. And that doesn't just mean eating healthy food or exercising. It's a lot more to it. Watch the videos. So again, natural validation can look like realizing that I am actually not floating away, even if my mind feels all over the place or foggy. Natural validation is constant, is not personal, is undeniable, and is grounding. So I want you guys to understand, how do we start validating? If you are somebody who has really been struggling with self-validation, it's 2026. It's time to get lit. Get hype. If you've been somebody who's been struggling with self-validation, you have to start getting healthy. Rewatch the health lives that we did, y'all. It's just, we talked a lot about this type of stuff, honestly, in the health lives. And I think you'll like it. Like I said, I really want to make a gratitude journal, but I just need some time. It may not even be this month or next month, but I want to make it, and I want to focus on it so that I can focus on guilt and shame, like those exact emotions. But I want to get off top. Somebody knock on my door. I don't think I heard somebody knock on my door. When trouble comes, ooh. So how do you start validating yourself? You have to start regulating your body. You have to ground your nervous system. You have to breathe. You have to move. You have to reconnect with the natural laws around you. Remember, health is alignment with how you function. Being aligned, right? Is being whole, being well, all those things. Your functioning is what makes you valid. Nothing else. Because you are functioning, you are valid. Because your function is following laws that you are bound to, right? So understand, this is a conversation that I believe can be expanded on, but I was just here to start the conversation because it was something I was thinking about today, and I wanted to think through it. And I really do enjoy coming on here and thinking through my conversations, because it allows me to, first of all, get everybody else to join in on the conversation and speak their piece. But on top of that, it allows me to kind of organize it in a way, because I laid it out for you guys, right? So I can think back and I can be like, oh, I said this, I said that, and I can think about what I said better because it's already out there in the world. So this is not a final, conclusive discussion. I believe this is just a start. I don't plan on continuing this discussion, but it is definitely a start to maybe in the future we can have more conversations to it, right? But again, a lot of people are seeking validation through people because they want people to tell them that how they think, or how they want to feel, or what they want to think about themselves is true. So they go to somebody else to confirm it, have them say it back to them, and then they go home feeling stronger and more confident about that because somebody else said it. Instead of just saying, this is who I am, therefore I said it, I create my own narrative, therefore it is valid. You get me? So, people are seeking validity through other people instead of creating their own story. But really what they're seeking is to be strong, to be grounded, right? They're seeking authority. That's what they're truly seeking. So if you are seeking validation from other people, realize that you're just seeking to be grounded. So go ground yourself. Go ground yourself. 5 senses. What do I hear, see, taste, feel, smell? That's automatically going to ground you in your reality. Who are you? How old are you? Where do you live? Y'all ever heard like you know how like I was watching the Hunger Games, and this is what they did in the Hunger Games, but I'm gonna give you like a more general example. When people are at war, right? So people are at war, and then because somebody is going through like hallucinations or unstable mental, or they're battling with, maybe mental programmings that somebody else is trying to enforce on them. And then every day they wake up and they say, this is who I am, this is what I do, because they want to be grounded in their true reality instead of succumbing to whatever belief system that somebody else is giving them. I remember seeing that in the Hunger Games. I think Katniss did that in one of the openings of the Hunger Games, or maybe it was what was the other guy? Katniss husband. Was Katniss and Peeta? I think it was either Katniss and Peeta or both of them. And then in the Tubi show, let me see, what was that Tubi show? I remember he did that in the Tubi show too. Damascus. The show Damascus. I remember at the end of that show, he did that too, because he was shifting in so many realities that he started to forget who he was, because he got stuck in a particular reality that was not his original reality. So that's one way that you can ground yourself, is just acknowledging what is true about you every day. And it grounds you into your reality. Who's your author? Who's making you do things? Some people are actually mentally unwell, so they feel like somebody else is actually making them do things. Or maybe they'll hear an overwhelming amount of voices in their head that they don't agree with, right? So how do you do that? You got to start breathing. You got to start acknowledging what is true for me, what is valid, what is consistent, what is law about abiding, right? Create your own life, write your own story, create your own goals. Of course, these goals are most likely are going to be something that is going to allow you to be happy and enjoy life without disturbing other people's peace, right? So I want you guys to really think about that, so you guys can really start validating yourself. And that's really what true validation is. That's how you validate yourself. And you just keep doing it over and over again, every day. That's life. So you said, it makes me think that a loved one may no longer validate you, and you must stand tall during the temporary storm. So validation becomes very important. Exactly. Exactly, GR. Exactly. So, law and order. One thing I can say with me looking into etymology, the word law is one thing I'm really starting to pay more attention to. Especially as someone who loves pragmatics. Pragmatics is like just social communication in general, communicating with people around you. And especially there's a smaller unit of pragmatics of self-advocacy and boundary setting. And one thing when it comes to self-advocacy is that you need to know your rights. You need to know your laws. And one thing about me, I've been really focused on self-advocating for myself. It's been things I'm like, I didn't want to have to do this. You know how your parents, I don't know, I'm black, so this is how I grew up. I used to hear this. Like, they whoop you. They be whooping you. They be like, I'm doing this. I don't really want to do this. I'm doing this. What they be saying? They be like, I don't really want to whoop you, but I'm doing this because it's going to make you a better person. Something like that. I forgot. I ain't got a whooping in a long time. Right? And it's like, it's certain stuff that I don't be want to do, but I do it because you not going to play with me. I don't really want to have to do this, but you really playing with me. And I know my rights. I know right from wrong. And how you doing me wrong. So I don't want to get off track or nothing. Not at all. I don't want to get off track. But understand, I don't think I said this earlier, but Authority versus obedience. I kind of got into it, but I didn't say the word obedience. You can be obedient to authority, but you don't have to, allow them to be the end all be all for your whole entire life. So be your author, write your story, allow that to grow, focus, expand it, manifest it. You are the true manifester. You are a human being. I didn't get into this that much either. Hello. I didn't get this much into it, but so this will be the last little things that I say before I get off of here. But humans are made to manifest. We are natural, expressive beings, and we are constantly expressing what is within us, right? So whether you realize it or not, 90% of communication comes from nonverbal skills or nonverbal communication. And what that means is how you look, your posture, how you're breathing. That's nonverbal. How your eyes, where your eyes is placed, where your hands are, what your feet are doing, your shape, your weight. All this can say a lot. Like, you can look at a person and be like, that person exercises. You did not have to ask them anything, even if they're not wearing exercise clothes. But how their posture, their stance, their physical body can tell you all of that, right? So understand that. What was I going with this? With the communication, I had a purpose. I had a purpose, but I forgot. Before I get yeah, it hurts me more than it hurts you. That's what it is. This hurts me more than it hurts you. That's exactly what it was, John. Thank you. That's exactly what they used to say. This hurts me more than it hurts you. You'd be like, what? What do you mean? No, buddy. Let's look at this poll. I'm going to get off of here, but most people, 90% people said yes, they can self-validate, and only 10%, so that's just one person, said they cannot self-validate. Hopefully with this live, you guys learn how to self-validate. But that's all I got for you guys today. Somebody else said, I don't know. That's sad. I'm sorry to you, buddy. Sorry to whoever said that they cannot self-validate, y'all. Sounds like homework. What's homework, John? What you mean? But yeah, y'all. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the live today. Let me give y'all some emojis in the chat. Some emojis. 1, 2, 3, 4. Y'all. There's my emojis for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. If you have any conversation suggestions, let me know. I don't mind looking at what you want to talk about, So you feel like a teacher. I am a teacher. Can't help it. You never gave much thought to self-validation. Yeah, really, me neither. I don't feel like I just think about it too much, but it is something that I feel like I see a lot, is people not being able to validate themselves and seeking external things. But I feel like I went through a phase of having to learn how to validate myself, but it just consciously, I was not aware that's what I was doing, So life is crazy. Life is so interesting, Be a healthy person. Self-motivation. Self-motivation is a topic you want to talk about. It's another topic. I love motivation. I talk about it low-key and how to be successful. You are programmed. It's how to motivate yourself. Manifest it. Life be lifing. It do. But we outside. Bitch, we outside tonight. We outside tonight. Something. I know the words, I just can't say it because it's not YouTube appropriate. But yeah, y'all, I'm about to get up off of here, y'all. I will see y'all next week. What is that? Next Sunday. Oh, and next Sunday is a 3-day weekend. So yay. We're gonna have a great time. That's gonna be the name of your book, Life Be Life. And okay, let me know so I can read it. I can't wait to read it. Okay, y'all. I'm about to get up off of here, y'all. I love y'all. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of y'all's week. Be amazing. Manifest your life. You are real. You are valid. I don't have to tell you to make it true. But hopefully I can make you more aware. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.